couple of things here of the goals of this workshop. Really, the first thing is to show you why data as a service is just a no-brainer if you want to be able to generate something that is hands-off, low fulfillment, and run an agency without running an agency, basically. What I love about this is, when we started the data as a service program and started telling people, hey, you should leverage data as a service, as opposed to it started off as like you should use it to grow your agency. But meeting guys like Emmitte and a few other people that I was speaking to, it's something that you can actually use to replace your agency, where you can actually just go in on providing data as a service instead of having to do additional fulfillment and things like ads and stuff like that. So we're going to show you just some simple ways in terms of just DAAS models that we've been testing out. Emmitte's been doing, a couple of other guys have been doing as well, which have been crushing it. And yeah, you'll get a copy of this at the end as well. So the next thing is just understanding simple fulfillment. A lot of you, if you're here, you've probably heard me talk about Trojan horse offers, which is essentially ways to get your foot in the door with very large businesses offering data as a service. Now, what is extremely powerful about this is these are like virtually zero fulfillment models, where what you do is you find a leverage point and then you supply the right data for that, with some guidance. You might do like an onboarding call, but it's not, running someone's ads fully for them. It's a very hands-off model if you do it correctly. And that's the thing that I want to make about today is this is for the people that want to look at something that's pretty hands-off to build a pretty easy hands-off data as a service company. And we're going to show you behind the scenes what works. Everything on here is stuff that's been tested. It's not just doesn't just sound good in theory. And this is people that we've been interviewing. And yeah, so first things first, what I'll do is I'll get Emmitte to introduce himself. Emmitte, can you hear us all right?
I can hear you.
Sweet. Oh yeah, introduce yourself and walk us through. I think the first thing is the first question I think would be really interesting. Is something that we spoke about is understanding what you're selling. Like how really it's not selling a commodity. It's solving virtually a $1 billion problem that companies are having. And it'd be interesting to get your take on how you position the sales in terms of like, it sounds like you're not even really selling, like you're just order taking right now.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just kind of start off with saying how we originally had an agency, a full scale agency where we were doing full service, we were doing the creatives. I mean, it was just a nightmare, and you always had to have those meetings where people were asking you for reporting and stuff like that. Until I found you guys. It was kind of a big game changer for us, in the sense that I no longer had to do the fulfillment. I was able to give them the targeting aspect of it. So to kind of give you a quick overview of what I do that's a little bit different, I set the call up. So there's two types of arguments, and I'm gonna use apologetics for this instance, just so you understand where my mindset goes. You have presuppositional arguments, which is what the seller is coming in with an understanding setting from one direction. They've got a presupposition or a pre-understanding of something. And then you have kind of your I guess the original style of argumentation, which is basically you're trying to convince them what you have is the best thing that's ever happened. So what I do is I set the stage by, like maybe my ad draws them in and it has something simple like hey, we're a lead generation company, or just different services that we offer. And I always lead off with saying, well, I'm not a lead generation company. I'm a data as a service company. And you put it back on the customer to ask, have you ever worked with one? Now, probably more than likely they've used someone like Zoom Info, which provides a little bit of data, but it's nothing like what we offer. And what it does is it allows the customer to come to the point where they're going to learn something. They're not trying to find ways that they don't want to work with you. They're trying to now understand what you do. Does that kind of answer the question of how I kind of set the call up? Because it takes them off that presupposition that I've already talked to 50 other companies like you. Now they kind of lean in and start bringing in more of a, okay, so what is data as a service.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it makes total sense, man. I think one thing that, you know, if people are currently in DAAS and on this, is what I love is you understand the value of it, and because you understand that, you're able to relay that to these companies. You know, I think the biggest thing to understand is businesses have no other option. They can either go broad on ads, or they can, you know, go and buy data somewhere else, which they have to basically piece it together. And that's pretty much it. So this is such a, you know, it's like the cure to cancer that you have when you're doing this type of positioning with the data. And once you realize that, it's like, okay, cool, like I can work with whoever I want. Let's jump into using go through some like zero fulfillment models. And then what we'll do is we'll go through you know, basically so, you know, the models that we have outlined in terms of how people are using data as a service, and what we spoke about, Emmitte, is basically we got audience syncing, you know, so basically just charging per audience and syncing it directly to ad accounts, which I know you're crushing it with. We've got, you know, how to just set up a very quick test for that. So it's not managing the ad spend or anything like that of the client. It's basically just a consulting call to show them how to test it. Then we've got canvassing, which I've seen a few people absolutely crush it with, you included. So can I talk about the roofing case study real quick, Emmitte?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so basically canvassing, guys, is where you identify lists that are looking for a certain service with, you know, like heavy zip code targeting. So let's say, for an example, Emmitte was working with a roofing company, and they didn't want to run ads. And instead they were like, oh, well, you know, can you just tell us what addresses of people and households are actually looking for a roof right now? So he just went through, he identified people that are looking for roofing. It was just a pre-made. He then added the zip codes, sorted that by financial, and then he was able to provide a list to the roofing company. And they were able to do, I think it was like a 10 to 20% conversion rate from knocks to actually book calls. And they generated like 30 grand just from that one list. So I think he charged them like 2,500 for the list, and they made 30K back almost instantly. So that's another way that people are absolutely crushing with the data, is doing this thing called canvassing. Now, this can work as well if you want to do some kind of like outbound. The only thing that we advise against is just with FTC, and you know, their fines are not fun. They charge like $500 per infringement. So what we've done is we have this thing called personal number that we've been working on, and I'll show you guys how you can find that if you're an existing Audience Lab customer. And this is like a mixture of B2B and B2C. And we've gone through about 30 million numbers so far, and basically just like quality checked it. And there's some ways around you can do some outbound, which is really interesting. Another form of canvassing is on a B2B front. One of our other clients basically was building a list for, it was a medical device. And from a list of, I think, you know, from one list, I think it was like 60,000, which is, you know, just a list that they generated in about 2 minutes. From B2B outbound, they were able to identify and actually, you know, book 603 qualified leads of businesses looking to spend 40K on a medical device. So the value of that list to that company is huge, right? But the most important thing with canvassing is understanding what details to give out, what details to not give out, understanding, you know, privacy rules in terms of, you know, we never advise calling someone's personal cell, particularly because the way that we match data is we want to have as many numbers as possible. So a lot of people could end up calling somebody's number that is tied to their profile for an ad. So that's why we've created what's called personal number, which I'll show you where you can find that in the fields. And then it's just, yeah, giving some kind of direction in terms of like, I think a really, really smart way, and what we're doing and seeing some really good results is canvassing, particularly for showing what households that local businesses should door knock, because companies are spending so much money on door knockers. Doing it from like a B2B front as well is awesome. yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can do in canvassing. Data licensing is a bit more. It's basically just licensing the static data sets to agencies or other companies. Obviously, you want to ensure the data is clean. Remove consumer attributes versus consumer contact. I'll go into what that is. We got custom models. Custom models is another thing you guys can do, which is absolutely bonkers. And I'll show you guys how we do that. It's kind of a new thing rolling out. Obviously, you've got identity resolution, right? And this is where you identify people on a website and their anonymous traffic. Now, there's a few identity resolution companies out there, but we want to show you how you can position it the absolute best way and really just keep clients that are going to be incredibly sticky. Then we're going to talk about finding clients. We'll talk about finding other agencies, and then we'll go from examples and stuff like that. So first things first, let's get into some fulfillment models. The first thing that I know Emmitte is absolutely crushing with is audience syncing. So basically what Emmitte is doing is he's charging anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 per month per audience that he syncs directly to a Facebook account. So the client never sees the data. All they do is they see the results from the data. Is that more the lines of what you're doing there, Emmitte?
Yeah, correct. And then if they actually ask for the data, they actually want a list for themselves. We upcharge for that another $1,000 a month. So most of the data, they don't get the data actually delivered to them unless they pay more than the base fee.
So I'll show you guys how easy the fulfillment of that is. So let me just jump into an account real quick so I can show you. So basically, all Emmitte is doing, right, is he is going into Audience Lab. Let's say, for an example, he's got a roofer client and they're like, hey, I'm running roofing ads and I just need an audience. He goes into here, he goes into pre-made, roofing, jumps into here. Looking at roofing, remodeling construction services, so roofing. So this is people that are, if you guys don't already know, essentially what our behavioral feed does is it tracks 50 to 60 billion URLs of competitor websites every single week. And then our AI models identify audiences from there. So this is basically a model of all the people that are looking for roofing within the past 24 to 48 hours. And then it's scored. And I'll show you how deep the personas go. So we just look at businesses, they're looking at business services, they're looking at roofing as remodeling construction services. Then we go down, you can add like personal, financial, all that stuff, but we're just going to go through here. And then you go here, and then we just do past 24 hours, and then you can build that audience. Now, what Emmitte is doing, which is super, super smart, is he goes to the client and they're already running ads. So he doesn't need to run ads for them. And all he does is he clicks on here, which is our little sync feature. And then he just connects the Facebook account. That connects directly to the ad account of the client. And then that updates every 24 hours. So essentially what he does is he charges a monthly fee. He connects an audience to the ad account. And then he just, that audience every single 24 hours is then going to re-update with people that are fresh in market. So on Monday, it could be, on Monday, it could be 60,000 people. And then on Tuesday, it could be what would be a completely different 60,000 people with maybe like a small overlap. And that just keeps going. Now,
okay, can I jump in really quick? I just want to add one quick thing. The big advantage to this is always finding somebody that already has a marketing company that they're working with. And what we've come to find is it allows us to position ourselves as an ally with the customer. So essentially you take this data, this list that he's showing you guys that we upload, and have them do an A/B test with their customer, with their current marketing company, whoever it is. It doesn't make a difference because you're not taking the position of a marketing agency or a lead generation agency. You're taking a data as a service. So if you position yourself, okay, let's take exactly what they're currently doing. Let's duplicate it exactly. And then we'll run an A/B test using my data versus theirs for the first 30 days. And then once you prove yourself with the data for a higher conversion, which we've seen pretty consistently with our customers, we no longer are on the chopping block, so to speak, is like you would be with a normal lead generation agency where I've got to do constant reporting. because now they already trust the data, and I'm just become part of doing business. I became a cost of good versus an expense of advertising. So I just wanted to point that out. That's what makes this so beautiful, is that I'm part of their team now because they trust the data sets that I'm giving them.
Yeah, once you get that first initial test, they'll just keep wanting more and more data, basically. I mean, what we'll do is we'll answer some questions and then we'll do like a big question run at the end. But one thing, obviously, Emmitte, is what are you seeing in terms of the results of those audiences that you provide for those companies in terms of how it would work on Facebook or broad?
So because we are actually giving them specific targeting data, their cost per lead might be a little bit higher, but their convertibility is almost twofold. I mean, most of our customers are doubling up on their conversions. You know, and it comes down to a couple of coaching things too. Like, we don't do any fulfillment like ads, but I do a lot of like, okay, what was your speed to lead? And give them insights into, okay, well, you got this lead yesterday. Why did you not call this one? And it kind of helps coach them, again, making me more of an ally and not so much as a cost. But yeah, that's what we've seen so far in the industries that we've expanded into.
Yeah, I think a huge thing of that is basically the idea is to drop their cost per customer, right? So what a lot of people do is when they use quality data as opposed to like interest on Facebook, they actually see a way higher CPM and they freak out and they're like, okay, well, this must not be working. But what happens is you're actually getting a better quality of audience. So usually what we see is your cost per lead will go up when you're using these data sets. But like Emmitte said, the conversion rate is going to be like 2 to 3 times what it used to be because you're hitting the exact person that you want to hit. So the overall CPA of the client, the cost per acquisition, is going to drop. So usually what we say is we see like a drop usually of 40, 50% on average. It's dependent on the ad account. That's based on the CPA. So that's just not talking about like, okay, cool, cheap leads. It's talking about, all right, so our goal is to actually get a lower cost per customer. And I think that's a huge thing that you want to drive home with these clients is you want to get them out of, one sec. Sounds like based on the vertical, the investment per month could be twice this rate. Is there a list of verticals that will pay and how are this? Yeah, no, we'll go into that towards the end. But yeah, so it's about dropping their overall cost per acquisition instead of just getting them cheap leads. And that's what you want to drill into them, right? Because they might pay for like the data set and they're like, hey, it's actually increased our cost. But then they find that they have like 2 to 3 times conversion rate. So now their cost per customer is actually dropped by, say, like 40%. And that's the end goal. And then they'll just never leave you. So understand that, like, you know, in terms of data companies, if you look at like data competitors and things like that, it's not friendly pricing. It's like 2 to 3K per audience with a 12-month contract, right? Like companies like ZoomInfo and LiveRamp and things like that. That's how much they're charging. Okay. So what we are going to do now is this part I think people understand is, you know, we find people that are already running ads and then we say, hey, look, we can drop your cost per customer. And then we create an audience just for them. We either do it through pre-mades or we build a custom model, which I can show you guys a bit more on. And then we just charge monthly. And then we connect the ad account and then it goes to work. Right? Oh, that's rough, Dan. We'll come into that in a sec. Right? So next we got to talk about how do we test it? Right? So how we actually like testing the data and how do you run that test? Now, this is where a lot of people can go wrong on this because what happens is if you don't do this correctly, first of all, I think the biggest thing is you want to find someone that already has some kind of data they're running, right? Because if they're not, if it's just a brand new ad account, you're going to have to build the ads for them, which then you slowly start blurring that line of being a data as a service consultant to running the ads for them. So that's the first thing in terms of picking the client. But the second thing is how you set up the test and the account structure. So across like all of our clients and across what we do internally, we've identified 3 testing models, which work very, very well, depending on like what the client has and so forth. So this first one here, this is one that Emmitte uses quite a lot. And we've been testing too, and it's pretty gangbusters, to be honest. I find that this method works best for local campaigns that have a smaller radius area. So one thing I see people is, let's say they have, I don't know, they're in like one zip code area, right? And then they build an audience inside an audience lab and they create lookalikes. Usually that audience is going to be extremely small, and then it's going to be hard for them to actually get their bang for their buck on that audience. So, I mean, if the client wanted to, they could just do canvassing and they could be like, hey, well, why don't you just reach out to these addresses if you're doing door knocking anyway, if it's that small. However, if it's like something where they're like, no, we want to run ads, you'd want to use the dynamic method. So essentially what this is, and I think this is pretty genius, and this is, Emmitte, this is, credit to you, man. This is what you came up with. It's almost tricking the algorithm into, convincing them the audience is big when it's actually quite small. So essentially what you're doing is he will build a custom audience inside Audience Lab of the exact audience you want to target. So like going back to, let's say, the roofing audience here, which is just building now. I'll come back to that. But going back to that, what I'll do is I'll move this over in tabs so I can pull it across again. Move it here. So our roofing audience is just completed, right? What we do is we'll go through and we'll download it, or we can sync it to the ad account. So I'll, sync that, and then I'll connect that to a Facebook Business Manager. So once that audience is in there, I would then create a lookalike of 1 to 4%. I think we've been testing at 1 to 6%, but 1 to 4% is just a sweet spot because it's quite a big audience, but it's still very targeted. But then what's really interesting is the custom audience itself. Basically, you keep that, right, Emmitte? So essentially, we've got a custom audience. So the custom audience might only be, let's say, 40,000 people, right? Like if I grab this audience here and I download this, and I'll just see how big this audience is. This is just for 24 hours. So let me see how big it is. Wow, I'll wait. So essentially, let's say the audience is like 40,000, right? So you run that as a custom audience and you run that directly with Facebook ads. You may see that it's actually not performing as well because it's just a really small audience. So you kind of need to trick Facebook to putting money in this audience, even though it doesn't want to, right? So this is an example of what the data looks like. So let's see how big this is. So this is people that are interested in a roof right now. So this is 24 hours of data, and this is nationwide. So you'd have to split it up if you wanted to do like different locations and stuff. So yeah, we've got 182,000 people, right? B2B and B2C. When I said personal number, I'll show you guys that real quick because I don't want to jump all over the place, but a lot of people ask me about this. So mobile phone, you don't really want to mess with. It's too risky with like, FTC and stuff. But what we have been working on is this thing called personal phone. Now, personal phone essentially is a mixture of B2B and B2C. And we've done a huge quality control on personal phone. But I'll talk about that in terms of how to use that later and some of the canvassing stuff. But for ads, what we do is we upload this data to Facebook, or we just sync it directly to Facebook. Then essentially we have a custom audience, right? And then in that same audience, we're just adding a 1 to 4% lookalike of that same audience. Okay. Then it's dynamic creative. Dynamic creative means that you have, it means that Facebook chooses the creative. So we have about 5 different, variations. And then we just do CBO, or advantage budget, which basically means you're letting Facebook decide inside the campaign. So you got ABO and you got CBO. So this is the dynamic method. Is that pretty much how you'd explain it, Emmitte? I mean, I don't want to butcher your explanation, but
yeah, I mean, you're just stacking the local audience with a much broader scale, giving it a better kind of an audience graph of what to look for your clients. Yeah, I mean, that's essentially it. I keep the text all the same. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add on that.
So I had to add a state data identifier. So what's interesting is you actually, inside Audience Lab, you specify the state or the zip code, right? And you build that custom audience. And then you have one that's just as is. So you have your lookalike, but then you also have that the stacked on with the custom audience, right?
Correct.
Cool, cool.
A lot of it comes down to is separating out your variations too. Like I run a lot of tests on 0 to 3, 0 to 4, um, but they're all dynamic sets with their own individual ad sets. Like just creating the difference being only the only difference is the audience itself of what I'm targeting. Sometimes I'll even break it down into utilizing the keyword feature for pulling a list for my own, and looking that way as well too, just to see what I can find.
Love it, dude. All right. So that's the first method. And I think that works really well when you have something that's a little bit more specific. Essentially, it is a way to force Facebook to actually spend on that audience, really. And I think it's smart. I mean, so the second way, which is what I usually do and what I've taught up until now, is what we call the audience spectrum method. Now, this works best, I would say, if the audience is a bit larger. So if we're doing a national campaign. So what's cool about this is essentially when you find the exact audience that you want, right? And you don't want to go outside that audience. It's like, this is the audience I want. This is bang on the money of exactly what I want. You want to test the whole spectrum of the audience. So you want to take that audience and you want to test it from 0 to 1%, 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 10, right? And you want to have one audience per ad set. This works really well because what it does is it tests the whole spectrum of the audience, right? So you're looking at each pocket of the audience and each possibility there. What I usually find is 3 out of the 6 or 4 out of the 6 audiences absolutely crush it. Sometimes I find like 4 to 6 will crush it, 1 to 2 crushes it. And then because that audience is just refreshing every single day, the seed custom audience, you can just kind of set and forget when you do that, right? So I found that is super, super powerful. So I find if you want to have something where it's like a national campaign, that's where you'd want to do those types of tests. Is like a set is just an audience spectrum method. The next one, and this is one that we have seen. Excuse me. This is one that we're actually using internally. We're booking appointments at $40 an appointment. Really doesn't show up right with what's called the rapid fire method. And this is where you just want to do a rapid fire of as many pre-matches as you want. So essentially what you want to do is you just want to get a 0 to 1% of any type of audience you want. You want to have, 4 ads, 4 static ads in each audience. And then you just keep testing until you find a winner, right? So once you do that, essentially it's, what I like about this is, let's say we had a roofing client and we started off with just doing the roofing in market of people looking for roofs. And what we found is we're getting a lot of people that were just shopping around because we knew these people were looking for roofs. So obviously they were on sites looking at roofing companies and they were doing a lot of comparison. What we did is we switched it up and we were like, all right, well, why don't we test a 0 to 1% and find people that are interested in investment properties, right? That are preparing investment properties. We focused on that and the lead cost dropped and the sales conversion rate was actually a lot higher too, right? So this is where it's looking at like, what is the audience that's going to work with the right ad? I think that if you're just trying to go for results and you just want to get results as quickly as possible when it's a newer ad account, I would use rapid fire. If it's something where there's already data inside the ad account and you're doing a test with the client and you want to get that audience proven, I would do dynamic. But otherwise, if you're doing like B to B to C or anything like that, I would do audience spectrum. I think out of these 3, though, you're going to find something that works. And it takes about 20 or 30 minutes to set up a campaign in this, right? Now, the biggest thing is you need to have some kind of, we don't need to, but it is best if you have some kind of data already to go off with. Otherwise, you're going to have to, create the ads for the client. And then you're pretty much just a few steps away becoming their media buyer, which is good if you want it. But if you don't want to do that, then obviously, you want to adjust. I'll quickly show you guys, actually. Let me just because I got an example of a campaign. I hate telling people stuff and not showing them. So let me just, I always say, show me, don't tell me. But this is a campaign that we were just running recently.
And demo.
Oh, yep. So let me just see why I find this. Somebody, if you've got a question, just chuck it in the chat. And I'll just show you how this works. I'll go back to it a little bit. I just need to check because this is client's ad account. All right. So, next up, we'll go through what is called, we'll go through. So first of all, this is the most popular one, is audience syncing. It's finding ad accounts already established, licensing the data for their audiences, and then as soon as they see some kind of bump, they'll basically just keep paying, right? Emmitte, how many clients are you onboarding a week for this?
We're on average for about 10.
10 a week?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Thought it was like 3. Okay. Wow. So yeah, I mean that's 10 a week. And charging around.
The key to it is just to keep focusing in on the funnel aspect of it. So I have a lot of yeses that will be on my first week, and then I close the following week. So it's kind of a cascade effect that's closing on each week, stacking on each other.
Yeah, I love that, dude. Well, yeah, I mean, so that's awesome. It's just audience seeking, and you're using most of the dynamic method. So what, you're just coming in, you're getting a client, closing the client. We'll go into that in a second in terms of how he actually does that. Charging $1,500 to $2,000, $2,500 per month per audience. Sync it to their Facebook account. The sync happens daily, and then you're just basically, you set up the initial test for them, and then it's just rock and roll.
I do a little extra too. Like I have, I know it's set to a timer, so I always make certain that they check to know that we've got an audience, because I don't want to just disappear from their mind. I want to let them know that we're still functioning in the background. So what I'll do is I use GHL that will just kind of send a reminder to the client once a week, like how many lead lists have been uploaded. And it just keeps you kind of top of mind that we're still working in the background. And that way, whenever they get the next billing cycle, they don't just, what the hell's this? So.
Yeah, I love that. So basically it's just like a quick, GHL is go high level. So basically it just sets up a reminder once a week where it just pings the client just to say, hey, how are leads going now that you have these audiences? Yeah, that's dope. All right, so what we'll do is let's move on. How are we doing for time? Oh shit, we've been 30 minutes. All right, we'll just keep going. So if you don't have any ads in the ad account, right? What is the oh, that's an interesting one, Emmitte. What are you seeing a good retention time frame? I mean, it's probably early to say because you've been running, I don't know, like 6 months or so. But what are you seeing in terms of like retention?
If they're actively using the ads and they actually have a system in place, retention's pretty high. I mean, it's probably close to 90%. But if you get somebody that you're just feeding data to and they've got ads running and they don't have a system in place, like, oh, hey, I couldn't answer these calls, I couldn't get back to them because I was working on the job, or whatever the million excuses that they have are, I mean, you're going to see a substantial drop off on those. So if they're actually actively engaged, which is kind of why I vet my clients right out of the gate, I really want to work with people who already have a system in place, because part of my spiel is, our job is to make the connection. Your job is to close them. And I think that's, I've heard that said many times. I think even the onboarding for audience labs, like I can send you 1,000 people to your door, but if you can't close them and you don't have a system in place to manage that many, you're just going to drop off. So that's where they don't see the value, is because it's just too much all at once. And they're just throwing cash out because they don't know how to actually monetize on the traffic and the leads that they're getting.
Yeah, I think they that is the kind of the line between just being an agency or being a data as a service consultant, because running a full-on DAAS model where it's like you want to do as little fulfillment as possible is just focusing on that one thing. It's just audience, and it's just the quality of the data. That's it. So how you position that's pretty cool. I think sometimes, and that will that comes into how you find clients that already have something going, as opposed to just finding brand new people. And what I'll do is I'll go into that in a second, or not in a second. I'll go into that later in the workshop. But yeah, I mean, that's mad. So I think what we'll do is I want to talk about how to find winning ads and do the creative. And this is still within like the data as a service mold, but we want to be careful on this, because when you start writing ads for the client and then you put in the audiences, you slowly do become their media buyer, right? That could be a good thing if you want to upsell them, but if you just want to keep this as strictly data as a service model, you don't want to mess with that. You got to kind of be careful how you do it. So really the best thing is if they have previous winning ads, you want to use those, right? That's the best thing. However, if they don't have anything, which really I think if you want to have this as a hands-off model, I would only really deal with clients and vet clients that already have something going. I mean, there's plenty of them out there, you know, the abundance is plenty. You don't have to work with clients that just have nothing going for them. But let's say, for an example, it's a major franchise and, you know, it's a big deal and they want to set up a new ad account just for this. They don't want me to use their ad account and they don't have any creative and they want to get something going, right? So they don't have anything. So this is essentially where you want to just identify competitors and then reverse engineer their ads. So Emmitte, you mainly just use Facebook Library, right?
That's all I use. And I
Yeah.
go and I find the oldest, longest running campaigns for people. The other big thing too that I want to point out is I never look for data as a service, because your average customer isn't looking for that. You have to spark their interest on things that they understand, like lead generation, and everyone's looking for it. They all need it. The problem is they just keep getting burned. So that way, when they, you know, like I was saying earlier, they answer the call, almost everybody tells me, okay, I mean, I've already been through 7 of these in the last week. What magical thing are you going to promise me? What kind of guarantee are you going to give me? And I said, well, I'm not going to promise you anything, and I'm not going to guarantee anything. I'm not even going to guarantee this product is for you. And you just literally move them off that. Again, that predisposition that they have, that they already know exactly what you're going to say. And that it's because the ad is drawn in off what they know, and you're presenting something completely new, which completely sets a different tone to the conversation.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. Let's talk about, I mean, so I don't want this to take too long. Would you guys rather do you we can either go through and talk about how we find competitor ads, reverse engineer those, or we can talk about canvassing and custom models. I mean, which one do you guys want to talk about first, just so we don't run out of time? Give me a one for, just say canvassing or basically either competitor ads or custom models. Which one? Models, canvas, my clients, custom models, winning comp ads. All right, let's just do all of it. All right, so how to find competitor ads. It's super easy. You don't want to overthink it. What you want to do is essentially you want to go through and you just want to find a company that is spending money on ads. That is basically it. There's 2 ways that I actually do this that I've found are very, very effective. The first way is there's a company called VidTeo run by this guy, Ian. I'm actually going to try and get him to come into a workshop soon as well. But VidTeo, it shows you what companies are spending the most money on YouTube. Now, what you want to do is you just want to find a single company, right? They can be spending money on YouTube, Google ads, doesn't matter. If they're spending money on YouTube, they're likely spending money on Facebook. So you could put in any company here. So let's say, for example, ClickFunnels, right? Let me just sign in. What I'm going to do is tell you how much they're actually spending on that ad. So let's just do ClickFunnels. Right, so let's do, like, say you got the ClickFunnels explainer, or let's do brands. So brands, ClickFunnels, and then you search. And then what it's going to do, let me see. I won't do a whole tutorial on this, but essentially if we go here, let's do ClickFunnels. What you can do is it will show the video, show the ad spend. You got to sign into the ad spend past 30 days, ad spend there. This is really to find brands that are spending money. Then as soon as you find a brand that's spending money, you want to identify their Facebook account inside the Facebook library. So the Facebook library is just this, right? So Facebook library. So basically, I mean, one of the most simple ways, if you don't want to do anything like that or go for any tools, is you literally just go into Google. So let's say I'm doing roofing. So I would just do like roofing company. I'll think about what is an expensive keyword. And then I would just find the companies that are running ads. So say, for an example, leaky roof, or you've got, I'm in Australia, so it's going to be a little bit different, like All Good Roofing, right? You click on the brand. So you find someone that's already running ads. You click on the brand. You go down and you find their Facebook account. You want to go to page transparency. And then you want to see if they're running ads. And if they're running ads, you can click on it and then you'll be good to go. Otherwise, you just come in here and you go to all ads, and let's just do roofing. And you can find some roofing companies here. So like, let's say this company is doing roofing. Scroll down and we can see like where I scroll down to the bottom, and you want to see like, what have they been running for the longest amount of time? So this ad here, if I go on the bottom, let's keep going. So this is active. So this has been running since May, right? And this one's been running since April. So it's been running since April. Either Emmitte buying team just hasn't been diligent, hasn't been turning off the ads, or the ads are winning. Okay, so we go down even further. So this one here, April 17th. Yeah, cool. So this one here, you can see it's been running since April 16th. So you want to try and mimic the creative. And I do have more guides on how to actually like reverse engineer creative. I won't go straight into that right now. But yeah, essentially you just want to find a winning ad, and then just find a company that's running ads, and then find what they've been running the longest. And then you just want to mimic that pretty much entirely. All right. So any questions on that? Does everyone understand, just like in terms of how we find like winners and so forth? Give me a yes, give me a no. Sweet. All right. So let's jump into the next part. Yeah, this is recorded. Yeah. What I'll do is I'll chop it up and then I'll send it out. So that's that one. So the next thing is canvassing. All right. So I spoke a little bit about this. Essentially, this is for essentially if you've got a business where they don't want to run ads, you need to think, how are you going to leverage the data, right? And this is where it comes into, like, what are you going to do here? So the biggest thing that I see people do, that is probably the thing to not do, is just hand over a list and go, all right, cool, good to go, right? You don't want to do that. Instead, what you want to do is you want to focus on, canvassing, which is you either give them a list of addresses for door knocking, or if you want to do some kind of outbound, you can do stuff with the personal number. I'll talk about that in a sec. Again, you've got to consult an attorney, or like we're not attorneys. We can't advise you what you can and can't do in terms of legalities. All we can do is provide you our best confidence in terms of the personal number, and then kind of go from there. I'd recommend against any kind of outbound dialing on B2C for in markets, just because these people don't know who you are. I think canvassing is fine, where you're just like, hey, here's a list of addresses to door knock of households that are looking for this service, because it works well. Or any kind of outbound for B2B is like game on, right? So let's say, for an example, it's a roofing company and they want to find businesses that are looking for a roof. You could do it that way too, right? And yeah, you get your emails, you get everything, right? So essentially you've got your canvassing, and then we've got ad syncing, check for DNC list via make. You do have DNC when you download. We do a DNC check. You might want to do another DNC check depending on like how strict your client wants to go. I don't want to give any advice on outbound calling for B2C just because I personally wouldn't recommend it, just, the way the FTC is rolling right now. But canvassing, where it's like you go to a solar company, you say, hey, here's a list of addresses that you can door knock and you'll be able to smash this, then yeah. I do 100% all outbound B2C ripping. I mean, I don't know. Like I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say whether you can and can't. I'm just, yeah. I would, I find that it's better to like, so if I'm calling a company and I'm like, hey, is this Jeremy? And are you looking for solar? Right? It's like kind of big no. But if I'm like calling Jeremy's business and I'm saying, hey, is this blah, blah, blah company? This is Theo from solar. Then I could, argue that I could do that. Right? So yeah. I mean, yeah, we show DNC, but you also want to do your own check too, depending on what database. There's a bunch of DNC databases. We have like one big main one, but there could be other ones too. Like you might want to run it through. Well, I'm not going to go through too much on some of the outbound. So I don't recommend it. I say don't do outbound for cell phones. Personal numbers are a little bit different because that's a mixture of B2B and B2C. I would focus on canvassing, doing like addresses, things like that. Then you can get around that. All right. So, and you can mail the addresses. You can do email. B2C email is a little bit harder. I mean, honestly, if they're at the point where they want to reach a lot of people, just do ads. If they're like, no, I just have this certain little tiny place that I want to do it in, then just run, just canvas it. Right. Okay. So next we have data licensing. That's pretty self-explanatory. It's just licensing the data, right? Custom models. I want to talk about this real quick because this is super, super cool. And I think this is something that a lot of people haven't really seen ever, right? And this is custom models in terms of finding a client's most top keywords and then being able to turn that into a model, which is really, really cool. So essentially what we've built is our own AI, right? And I don't mean built on top of OpenAI or something like that. I mean our own AI that sifts through 50 billion plus behaviors and then identifies certain audience looking for certain things. And it looks at both the depth, but the breadth. So it goes very deep. So let's say, for an example, we used to focus mainly just on keywords. And what that would mean is we were only getting the tip of the iceberg. So like, I'm just going to draw this out. Talk amongst yourselves for a sec. Let me just draw this out for you guys so I can show you what I mean. All right. So essentially, you've got your audience. Let's say we're people that have a leaky roof or they're looking at roofing, right? So we used to just focus on keywords, which is really just, let's say roof, right? Which basically finds anyone who's looking at stuff related to roofs. But there's so much in there because people that have, leaks, there's people that have water damage. There's a whole persona, which is really in here, right? So if we create a detailed prompt, I want you to think of this as almost like ChatGPT. The better the prompt, better the audience. If we create a detailed prompt, we can build what's called a custom model, which allows us to basically find any person we want and create our own model, our own AI, which is like our concierge that sifts through 50 billion competitor URLs to find that audience. So how that works is we just got out of beta today. So let's say I've got a client, let's go through, and let's say I've got a roofing client, right? So I'm going to go to, let's just do roofing, Texas. All right. So say I've got a roofing client. Will's roofing service seems like a good one. So click on here. All right. So let's say I go to this client and I'm like, hey, whatever you're spending on Google Ads, I can get you those keywords and just get you that audience and just give it to you. And then you can just, I'll basically give you, you just pay me $2,500 a month and I'll give you the audience of people that are looking for that exact thing. Right. And that client's just it's going to be a no brainer. And what you can do is you can be like, and you can either canvas this yourself or you can run it on Facebook ads and get it cheaper. Right. Or I can give you like a list of businesses, or there's a number of ways you can chop the data up. So what you want to do is, let's say I know what these guys are bidding on for keywords. I'm just going to chuck this in Ahrefs real quick now, but you could just literally ask the client. You don't have to subscribe to Ahrefs. So let me just jump in here. All right, so I'll just go here and I'll just type in the website. Again, you don't have to use Ahrefs. You can do what you want. You just want to find a list of keywords. That's basically it. All right, so let's say, for an example, these are the keywords these people are bidding on. Okay, so what do we got? Roof inspection, Austin, Texas. Right, so the cost per click, let's find like the highest cost per click. So like credit repair, Cedar Park, roofing contractors, let me see, roofing, commercial roofing, that's $18 cost per click, right? That's insane. So let's say we wanted to do commercial roofing. I think we already have commercial roofing as an audience, but let's say we didn't, right? You would just grab all the commercial roofing keywords. So let's just go here and I'm going to send a link of how I actually do the custom models inside of ChatGPT. But essentially what you want to do is you just create a custom model, which is this. You go to custom, and then you just need two things. You just need, oh, here we go. You just need a topic and a description. Okay, so the topic is basically, think about the keyword or the topic. So let's say, if we're doing commercial roofing, the topic is commercial roofing. And then we want a detailed description, right? So it's like something like this. So this is what I would do for, it was Rick Simpson oil, which is that one here. So it's like, this audience includes individuals looking at blah, blah, blah. This audience focuses on, and I'm going into the whole depth of what the audience is. It's not just, this is people looking at the ongoing research of RSO, looking at cannabis oils. They're looking at the Rick Simpson documentary. They're they're looking at broader topics of medical marijuana, the cannabis dispensaries. Like, I'm really going depth into the topic. What this will do is think of it exactly like a prompt you would use for ChatGPT, but it finds your audience. And then your audience is going to take about 8 to 24 hours to populate. The model will build. Then you have it evergreen inside of here. So then what you can do is you can just grab this, just like so, hit generate audience, sync it to their ad account. It's going to update every 24 hours, and then you can use that data however you like. So the custom model stuff is just, it's gangbusters. I mean, you can go to any client, anyone, and ask what they're looking for and build it for them in more depth and higher accuracy than they could probably get anywhere else, right? It's sick. And again, in doing this from a B2B standpoint, it's absolutely crazy. So if you're doing B2B, the custom models you can get so granular. Like I said, we had Joseph who locked in 603 qualified leads of people looking for a medical device by building a custom model of people that were looking for, it was like a TM flow type thing. I can't remember exactly what it was. Okay. All right. So identity resolution, I'm not going to go too into this. Most of you know what it is. You know what we do. Essentially, it is putting a pixel on someone's site. That pixel then matches up who that person is, and then you're good to go there. Now, the hard part about identity resolution is, how do you make the data, how do you make money from the data? You know what I mean? Like, what are they going to do once they have the leads? So really what you want to do here is when you put in the pixel on someone's website, I would just charge a set fee per pixel per month. The pricing that we've built for the pixels is it's freaking competitive these days. And the amount of data you get is amazing. What I think is a huge, huge value add, right? is to have it where you actually are pulling out certain types of people on the website. So let's say, for an example, they want to be notified and have a Slack ping anytime somebody pops on the website that is a founder of a business that does over $1 million. You can set that up for identity resolution. All right. So this is some of the models people are crushing it. Obviously, we've got audience syncing, canvassing, data licensing, custom models, identity resolution. Let's talk about finding clients. How are we doing for time? We're on the full hour, but we'll keep pushing ahead. You guys enjoying this? Give me a 1 if you hate it. Give me a 5 if you're like, this is mad. Keep going. Let's go. Oh, who said 1? Rick. Typo. No, Rick said 1. We're shutting it down. All right, sweet. So I think one of the biggest things that I've spoken about is in order to really execute the DAAS model, where you are a data as a service and you're not an agency. Again, there's nothing wrong with being the agency too. Like if you want to take somebody from zero, like you want to take somebody and you want to use the data as like the first point of leverage. And then you're like, all right, well, I need to now run your ads and do your reactivation and do your SEO. Like you can do that and you can charge a shit ton for it, right? But if you are wanting to just have it hands off and you kind of want to do what Emmitte is doing, where it's like you want to just provide the data and that's it. Chances are you want to find people that are already running ads. And the best way to do that is by either, you need to find someone that already has, is spending money on ads. They already have a website with traffic, or they already have a CRM or database that we can enhance or do something with it, right? So the question is, where do you find these clients? So are you still here, Emmitte? Because I know you had to go shortly.
Yeah, I got a few more minutes, man. I'm good.
All right, sweet. Can we quickly talk about the ads that you're running? Because I think this is a huge, if I'm correct, so it's about $40 cost per appointment, $50 cost per appointment right now.
Correct.
And you have a 90% show up rate, and then you're closing 10 to 20% of those deals.
Yes. I also, on my ads, I put the price right out of the gate. So my ads are structured in a way where I actually just, maybe we have something where we set up, lead generation, $5 to $15 a lead. And then I'll put the total cost of the actual package on the ad itself. It just kind of depends. Just been doing a lot of testing with that, but it raises my cost. But then people that come in and click on my ad actually know that it's going to cost money. They're very curious as to what it is that I have. And it's getting rid of a lot of the people who are not willing to pay it.
What I might do is I won't get you to like, shit, it's going to go over ad account because I know you got to go soon. And you probably don't want to do that, but I have some examples that I can put in ads that are like that. And I can add this to the doc. What I'll do is after this workshop, I'll add to this doc of anything we covered in terms of pictures and screenshots, things like that. And then I'll put it in the video after I chop this up. And then I'll send it out to everybody so you have it. I'll make sure this is done like as soon as possible because I know you guys will be chomping the bit to get it. But yeah, it's just a very direct ad, I think is the main thing. If you're using these audiences, you can have a very direct ad. Now, Emmitte, what you're doing with the ads, you're doing B2B to C, right?
Correct.
Sweet. So what Emmitte is doing, yep, sorry.
I also don't, they're all static. So if anyone has that question on mine, I
yes,
only
not doing,
ads.
Yep, just static ads, so that makes sense. So essentially what he's doing is he's doing stick code targeting, right? So there's 2 ways to do it. If you're running ads, you can do stick code targeting, or you can do cold email. It's up to you. I would say just run ads, but if you want to do cold email, you can totally do that as well. So what you do is every company in the United States has a SIC code, a standard industry classification, and they have to file with their taxes. So it's quite accurate. If you wanted to find agencies, the SIC code is 7311, right? So if I was to go here, right? These advertising agencies. Now, if I wanted to advertising agencies, how do I grab this list? Oh, here we go. All right, advertising agencies, right? So this is all the advertising agencies in the United States. It's 13,000 companies that are registered as an advertising agency. Obviously, there's some deeper ones here that you can get more into. We have some stuff coming out with the sick extensions we're pretty stoked about. But let's just say advertising agencies for now. If you wanted to click here and you wanted to buy this list, you're looking at 23 cents per lead, right? So times 23 cents by like 13,000 adds up. Or you can literally just come in here, grab the SIC code, go into the B2B builder, create. I just have a bunch of tests. What I've done, so ignore those. Just go down to SIC, type that in, and then you can just pull that list straight away, right? Then what I can do is I can just come in here and then I can just go, I only want founders. I mean, you can do founder, president, whatever, but I only want founders. Might take a minute. And then I can go through here. Now you want to put, I only put founder, and some people might not have just founder. They might have president, co-founder, director, whatever. So if I really want to, I'll just do seniority, and then I'll just do director, or you just download the list as is, as the whole SIC code, which is what I recommend, and then run ads to that, or just filter it after the fact. So essentially what Emmitte is doing is he's doing a B2B to C match. So he's grabbing the list, right? And he's getting the business, and then he's, as you can see here, we have what's called a B2B to C, B2B to C database. So you've got Benjamin here, right? And that's Benjamin as a person, but the business that he works at, or the business that he runs, is over here. Okay. So what we found is, let's say for an example, if you want to target a bunch of businesses and you go through on LinkedIn and you scrape those emails and you upload those to Facebook, it's not going to do anything for you, because my personal email that I use for Facebook login is adam.j.lucerne, right? It's like a Gmail. Okay. But my business email is adam@audiencelab.io. If someone wanted to target me on Facebook and they took adam@audiencelab.io and they put that in Facebook, they wouldn't match me up. Okay. So what you need to do is you need to identify the business with the personal consumer. And that's essentially what we have here. It's already pre-matched. So what you can do is you can go through, you can build a list of businesses, and then you can scroll down and you can go to where it says it's either going to be the hash or the personal email. You just grab this code here, and this is their personal identifier that you can use for targeting them online. Okay. So you can build insanely targeted ads doing that, or you can email and do targeted email to the business email, which is somewhere across here.
Your column C.
Column C.
Yeah, I think it's the very beginning. Right, tucked
Oh,
up right there.
Yeah. And then you got the business email. So those are two ways you can easily get clients, like basically right away. So essentially what Emmitte is doing a SIC lookup, downloading the list, running ads to that list, and it's just a very direct offer. Now, another way that you can do it is you can literally, like, so let's say for an example that you were like, hey, DAAS sounds sick. I want to sell DAAS to people, and I want to target companies that are already looking for identity resolution, right? So you just go boom, boom. You can see here, we've already created these segments of people that are looking for data services. So if I go to identity resolution, right, this is people. It's always people, and it could be a business, could be a person, but all we do is we just tie the person to the business anyway. This is people looking for identity resolution. Okay. They're looking for that in the past 24 to 48 hours. So I'll just come in here. I'll just grab this list for today. What I can then do is I can download this list. So let's go to the roofing audience. So I download the roofing audience, right? So this essentially is all the individuals that are looking for roofing services. Okay. But what I can do is I can match this to their business. So what's cool about this is I can type in identity resolution, I can grab an audience, and then I can find all the businesses that are looking for identity resolution. I can filter that by the type of business, and then I can reach out to those businesses and do a canvassing that way. So, I mean, you guys understanding that and how powerful that is? I hope I'm not just like talking to a void here, but like think about any business interested in any service and you just want to like canvas and reach out to them. Like, you know what I mean? It's crazy. Like it's insane. Let's say for an example, I don't know, what's like a really complex business? The B2B stuff on this is just bonkers. Like if you look at like HubSpot and companies that spend so much money on B2B advertising, I mean, I can't know if it's easy, but I don't know. Let's say a pharmacy. I have a massive pharmaceutical company. Website design, that's easy. Let's say I have a massive pharmaceutical company that wants me to find people that are looking for a certain type of medication or drug. I could create a custom model. I could download that, pull all the businesses, and then I could, you know, go through and speak to those businesses. If I'm wanting to work with pharmaceutical companies, I can pull those businesses. Like, there's so much stuff you can do, right? So yeah, so that is essentially how he's doing it. If that makes sense in terms like he's going through, he's finding the agencies, he's building lookalikes from the agencies. Another thing you can do is through built with, which I'll put this in here, but essentially what we do is you find companies that are using technologies and then you just use our enrichment tool to match them up. Then, you know, yeah, I think those are really, you do that and you have a simple ad, you're good to go. All right. So let's recap. So first things first, if you wanted to go out and you wanted to do like $10,000, $20,000 a month with DAAS, what you would do is the first thing you want to do is you want to find companies that already have something going for them. So start with agencies. Agencies always have clients and the client's looking for data, or go through and, I mean, organically, you should easily just in your own network be able to find 1 or 2 clients easy, right? If the data works, the first thing they're going to say is like, oh, if the data works, I'll bring you everybody. And if you do it correctly, it will work. Okay, so that's the first thing. And the second thing is there's a difference between going, you've got kind of this fine line where you've got like DAAS, where you're just working as a DAAS consultant. And then you've got that fine line where you can go to an agency if you want, or you can just stay in that DAAS area. And that's more of like a scaling outward instead of scaling, you know, vertically. You could take a handful of like 5 clients, start them off doing DAAS consulting, and then take over the whole business, right? You could do that, but it really depends on you know what you want to do. If you want to do Emmitte's method, then really just go in, be like, all right, cool. My job is to find the audience, and that's it, right? And then you grab the audience, you set it up, you use one of these methods to test it on ads. If they don't want to do ads, it means they're pretty small and they don't want to spend money on ads. So canvassing is probably the way to go. And they're either going to be a business that needs to reach out to other businesses, or they're going to be a company that does like door knocking or something like that. Very rarely is it going to be just doing like direct call on B2C. I don't ever recommend B2C. What we do is focus on personal number. B2C sell, if you see inside of here, like we've got mobile number and like, and also sell. We mainly just have this for ad matching. Otherwise, we'd probably take it away. Personal phone is where we put most of the work in terms of the quality control and things like that. And that's a mixture of B2B and B2C. Sweet. All right. We are at the almost hour and 10 minutes or so mark. Yeah, so the numbers, if you do numbers and you have clients calling mobile and cell, they're not going to have a good time because these are ad numbers. So what that means is maybe, let's say this number might be one they're actually using now, whereas these ones, we just collect them because we still want to match that person on ads. So yeah, you don't want to do that. If you want to do things where like you're selling a client that's purely doing, you know, like calling and things like that, you want to focus on doing it from like a B2B way and do stuff with personal phone, which I'll have a separate tutorial recorded on. But yeah, if you do, if you if you use mobile or cell, it's not going to be like a great time if you do that, right? But Robert, if reach out if you do have stuff that you want to do with outbound, because I can show you like how other clients are crushing it. But don't do mobile and don't do cell, because we keep that for ad matching. All right.
The other thing I would add is we're not going to be all things to all people. We're very good for those who we fit very well with. So, don't get analysis paralysis that hinders you from growing. Just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah, I mean that's a big one. I think, yeah. Just focus on one thing and do it really well. And I think that's the key to like the DAAS model. All right. We might wrap it up there. What I'll do is I want to allow what I'll do is, because we got to wrap it up soon. So any questions people have, first of all, how can I access the platform? So if you want to get into DAAS, like if you're new here and you want to jump into DAAS, what I will do is so I have Andrew or Nathan or anyone on here? I do not. So let's do, what I'll do is I'll type this in here. Type in the email and then just put in subject line DAAS, just like so. And do it that way. How would you use your platform to identify? So just real quick, guys, just so you know. So if you want to know more about DAAS, just email Nathan at audience.io. He's our right-hand man, and just put DAAS in the subject line, and then we can set something up and show you and see if it's going to work. I'll also send a recording out to everybody after this. How would I use your platform to identify more B2C customers who are wanting to buy a list of data to call? I'm all referral based right now. So you want to identify B2C customers that want to buy lists? Why would a consumer want to buy a list? Or you want to identify businesses that want lists of consumers? Let me just end recording here.